Every previous attempt to increase civic participation, trying to get more people interested in the government political system, which is largely understood to be unresponsive, more voter registration drives, more get out the vote campaigns, more civic awareness initiatives, and participation kept declining because the problem was never that people didn't know enough or care enough. The problem was that participation didn't seem to change anything. And people aren't stupid. They figured that out. So, what do you do when the tool is broken? You don't tell people to use it harder. You fix the tool. Episode 3, The Participation Reset. How citizens go from spectators to actual participants, built into the system itself. Not through protest, through structure. Let's get into it.
For most of American history, the civic participation model has been this: show up every 2 to 4 years, pick a name on a ballot, go home, wait. One moment of participation is supposed to represent a lifetime of voice in a system that makes decisions affecting you every single day. And here's the thing: the people who designed it that way knew exactly what they were doing. Civics education has been quietly reduced or removed entirely from state-sponsored curricula for decades. Not by accident. A population that doesn't understand how the system works is a population that can't hold it accountable. We were told not to talk about politics. It's personal. It's controversial. Pick a different topic. It's literally in customer service training manuals. The 3 things you never discuss with customers: sex, religion, politics. And we listened for generations, while the people who benefited from our silence never stopped talking about it. The participation gap isn't a lack of interest. It's a rational response to a system that made participation harder at every turn and seemingly ineffective when you do participate. Polling locations reduced in specific communities, not randomly, but strategically. Mail-in ballot access restricted in states where it historically increases turnout among populations that don't reliably vote the right way. Voter ID requirements written to create barriers that disproportionately affect working people, elderly people, and married women whose name on their birth certificate doesn't match the name on their current ID. And then there's gerrymandering, which is essentially jerry-rigging, but with your votes instead of your plumbing. District boundaries drawn and redrawn around existing populations until the electoral outcome is structurally guaranteed before anyone steps into a booth. The vote happens, the count is real, and the result was decided before the election started because the district was engineered to produce it. Named after Governor Elbert Gerry, who signed off on a Massachusetts district in 1812, so contorted it looked like a salamander on the map. We've been pretending it's a sophisticated governance term ever since. That's not democracy working as designed. That's democracy being worked against the people inside it. And yet, the grassroots response has been growing. Bernie Sanders spent years building a voter-funded campaign model that proved regular people could fund a competitive candidate without corporate money behind them. More progressive candidates have joined that model every cycle. APAC spending, transparency, and recent world events have opened more eyes to what campaign money actually buys, and who it actually serves. The skeptical population, the ones sitting and waiting to see if change is actually possible, they're not gone. They're watching. Remove the corporate money. Let the self-cleaning begin. And I believe those people will see the engine finally turn over and think, holy shit, it worked. And when they see it work at the local level, when their vote produces a visible, auditable, documented result in their own community, they will engage, because it will finally be worth it. So, Before citizens can meaningfully participate, the system has to stop rewarding the people who rigged it against the participation in the first place. Individual citizen donations only, capped at $1,000 per candidate. No corporations, no PACs, no backdoor organizations laundering money into campaigns. No exceptions. A candidate who needs to raise a meaningful campaign fund at $1,000 a donor has to actually talk to a lot of people, has to show up in neighborhoods, has to make the case directly to regular people. The cap puts candidates back where they belong, on the ground, in the community, accountable to the people who actually live there. And here's what happens next when those structural changes take effect. The self-cleaning process is largely automatic, not dramatic, not a purge, just the quiet operation of incentives pointing in a different direction. When there's no PAC money to collect, no revolving door to industry, no insider trading advantage, no donor network to cultivate, the people who were there for those reasons will leave. Through early retirement, through not running for a 12th term, through lobbyists finding other work when the financial infrastructure that sustained their business model no longer exists. The machine doesn't need to be manually emptied. Remove what was attracting the wrong people, and they'll find somewhere else to be. What remains are the people who were actually there to govern. Here's the core mechanism. Every state gets a people's chamber. Not elected officials, not political appointees, not career bureaucrats, regular citizens, stepping directly into the governance process with real access and real authority. Voluntary, not mandatory like jury duty, which produces a room full of people who would rather be anywhere else. You register your willingness to serve. You get randomly selected. 1 year. Full replacement annually. No member carries over. No exceptions. Fresh eyes every year. 1 term per citizen. Done. Teachers, nurses, farmers, small business owners, parents, veterans, retirees, the actual cross-section of the population every government claims to represent, but almost never actually includes. What does the chamber actually do? Full access to every state and local budget, every dollar of public spending, every piece of legislation, past, current, and under consideration. The same access available to the general public. Transparency isn't just for the chamber. It's the standard for everyone. The chamber can object to new legislation or proposed budgets. That objection creates a documented public record. Something was flagged, why it was flagged, what happened as a result. Permanent, searchable, public. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't get filed in a cabinet nobody opens. When the chamber finds a violation, financial misconduct, a conflict of interest, an abuse of process, it goes to an independent legal framework, not to an agency being investigated, not to a committee controlled by the people being investigated, to an independent body with real consequences. I'll tell you why that distinction matters from personal experience. I was told once about an audit conducted on a situation affecting me directly. The results were proprietary. They belonged to the company being audited. I wouldn't be receiving anything further. That's the current model of accountability in this country. The entity under investigation owns the investigation. That's not accountability. That's theater with paperwork. The People's Chamber exists specifically to end that dynamic. The findings belong to the public. The record belongs to the public. The consequences are triggered by an independent body that doesn't answer to the people it's investigating. not theater, actual accountability. And here's the thing about random selection that most people miss. It's not just fair, it's strategically superior to the current model. Career politicians develop career politician blind spots. They stop seeing what regular people see every single day. The pothole, the medical bill, the school that needs a new roof, the contractor who left the job half finished with the cones still up 6 months later. And randomly selected citizen auditing the road budget still drives on those roads, still pays those registration fees, still lives with the consequences every spending decision they're reviewing. That's not a conflict of interest. That's the point. The people watching the budget should be the people living inside it. You don't have to convince people to use a tool that works. You just have to build one.
The distance between citizens and governance didn't happen by accident. It accumulated, one layer of complexity at a time, one closed door at a time, one process made slightly harder to follow, slightly less accessible, slightly more removed from the people it was supposed to serve, until most people correctly concluded that the system wasn't designed for them and stopped engaging with it. The participation reset doesn't ask people to be more interested in that system. It builds a different one, where regular people sit inside the process with the full picture in front of them and the authority to act on what they find. Democracy isn't something done for the people. It's something run by the people. This is what that actually looks like. Episode 4 is next. The culture shift. Why civic literacy used to be the standard part of American life, and what it costs us that it isn't anymore. Full episode 3 is on Substack. Everything is in Searchlight Archive. I'm Ryan. Echoes of the Cosmos. I'll see you in episode 4.